Okay, guys, we are back, and we are going to now take a look at a little bit more about making maps, and more specifically, how to make fun maps. And with us is Holly. Welcome in.
Oh, hey, hello. Welcome.
Thank you so
As
much.
you,
Thank you so much, first of all, for taking the time to show us a little bit today.
yeah, no problem. You may or may not know me. I've been doing a lot of work in the collab since I'm one of the captains there. And one of the main jobs that I've been doing is playtesting maps. And as a playtester, you look for a lot of things like, hey, is the map broken? Does it function properly? Can you get to the end properly? Is it the right difficulty? All that sort of stuff. But sometimes when you playtest a map, you find that a map just isn't like broken or anything. It's just not fun. And as my boy Reggie from Nintendo once said, if it ain't fun, why bother? And the whole deal of the collab is that people do bother with it. So well, we have to do something. We have to make it fun. So yeah, how do you make a map fun? It's a difficult question, but I'm going to try to like point at a few things that contribute to making things fun. So I think that is what we're going to try to do here now. So I'm gonna start off with what I think is like the biggest factor in making mods fun, and that's what I've called the sick factor. And I'll explain what that is in just a bit. Don't worry. First, let me paint you a little picture. So let's say you're playing Mario. I've drew a little diagram of what Mario is right here. So let's say you start up a level and you have Mario right here, and you have some Goombas. And we're going to talk about what these Goombas are doing. Are they an obstacle? Well, some may say so, but they're not difficult. You can just take Mario and just go wahoo, go all the way across. It's not difficult. It's not a problem. So why would you put 3 Goombas here instead of just one? Like, you already forced a jump. Why would you put 3 Goombas here? And there's one simple reason for 3 Goombas instead of 1. Because with 3 Goombas, what you can do as Mario is you can jump, land on the first Goomba, jump up again, land on the second Goomba, jump up again, land on the third Goomba, and jump off again. So then you basically make something like this. And you do that because it's fun, it's enjoyable, you feel good about yourself. So what you can see here is that these Goombas were not placed there to kill you or anything. They were just placed there to be stomped on. They are nothing but a tool to make you feel good about yourself. You need to feel like a gamer. And that is what obstacles are there for. So what this means basically is that you need to think not in obstacles, but think in opportunities. And yes, that does sound cheesy, but it is what it is. Because you as a game designer, as a level maker, you're not trying to stop players from reaching the end. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to make sure that when the player reaches the end, they feel good about themselves. They feel like a gamer. That is your main and first goal. So how do you get that feeling? How do you make sure that that feeling is in your map, that players feel like a gamer? And for this, I've made a scientific graph. I've done the math. I've went to the lab, and I found exactly what you need to do. And here's the graph for it. This is my graph.
Here we go, guys. This information is free right now, so I want you to take advantage. Take advantage of this free information.
I've spent some time in the lab for this one. So on the horizontal axis, we have how difficult it is to do something for the player. And on the vertical axis, we have how sick it is, hence the sick factor. So let me explain how this works, right? So I'm sure you've all seen wave dashes in Celeste before. You go real quick. It isn't that hard to do. So if you were to put a wave dash on this graph, it's kind of like in between here for difficulty. So it's on this line, and it's kind of sick. It's kind of sick. I would go as far as to say that it's almost hella sick. So a wave dash would be here. So that puts it square into the do it category. And as you can see, yeah, people use wave dashes quite a lot, actually. Like you saw the 70, there were so many wave dashes. And let's get another example going, like an example of the exact opposite. The demo dash. You may not have heard of it, but I'll just explain just real quick. It's very difficult to execute. It's like frame perfect stuff. It looks identical to an irregular dash. The only difference is that you can squeeze through slightly tighter gaps or something. I don't know. That isn't that sick to do. So it's not sick, but it is very hard. So a demo dash would be somewhere like here, putting it into the don't do it category. And that is exactly why a lot of people don't really use demo dashes in their maps, because it's just not that sick. So if you follow this, you will get better maps, because of course you still need to make things that are hella sick. So you do still have to like put an effort to get that, but this is at least a sort of guideline for you to get what you need. Now, there is one problem with this graph. And to explain this, I'll tell a little bit of a story. So like roughly half a year ago, maybe a bit more, I was busy making chapter 3 for my campaign Inwards. And I thought it was great. It was off. It was just the best map I've ever made. And I sent out some early copies for playtesting, thinking like, man, this is going to be great. This is going to be just the best. And one day later, I heard back from the playtesters, and they said it was awful. They said some choice words that I'm not going to repeat, because it was too tight. They didn't like it. They thought it was awful. It might have something to do with the bumpers. I don't know. But I was confused. I don't know what was happening. So the problem here was that, let me just get like a yellow color going. I thought my map was like pretty sick, I'd say, and not that difficult. I would say roughly here. Okay, let's get like, what's a better color? Purple should do. I thought my map was somewhere around here, but the playtesters, they didn't agree. They thought it was like here, and they thought, no, this is pretty hard, not that sick. I don't like this. And well, yeah, the sad part is that I'm not making my map for myself. I'm making it for the players. So I have to listen to the playtesters. So I went back into Ahorn. I edited everything to be more lenient, to be less annoying, and I brought this dot over here a bit more closer to what I had originally envisioned. So now I hope you can see the problem here, is that I think it's this dot in the do it category, and the playtesters think it's the don't do it. That is a bit of a problem. And that is a problem that I would like to call the fact that I have creator vision and the players have player vision. Very simply put, I made the map, I know how it works, I know everything. Players do not. So how do you get these two dots like on top of each other? How do you make sure that when you make something, the players see it as it is? Well, you do that by improving readability. And there's a few ways to look at this, but I'm just going to explain like a bit more in detail what I actually mean with this, just in case you were confused about all this. So let's say I make a map, and the map consists of exactly one room, and it's just an empty room, and there's a locked gate at the end. Now, regular players going into the room would look like, oh wow, that's a room. There's a locked gate. How do I get through this? I don't know. But me, the creator, would know that there's actually a secret passcode encoded in the dashes of Madeline. So if you dash like up, right, down, left, and down, right in a specific order, then the gate unlocks and you can clear the level. Of course, that's terrible design. That's awful. Why would you ever do that? But that shows clearly, hey, I made the level. I know exactly what to do. So that's what you have to be aware of. You know something that the players don't. Because you may know the arbitrary set of inputs it takes to complete the level, but players don't. They have to look at the level to figure out what to do. And that's where readability comes in. Readability is basically how easily the player can see what they need to do. And there's a lot of ways to improve readability. So let me go over a few of those real quick. Like there's setups, there's restricting possibilities, there's like using like themes and not using multiple paths and all that sort of stuff. So let me just walk you through those. So first, let's look at introducing setups. Um, this is something that you may not have seen before. Let me just open this file. Let's take a look at this. Now, players who've played a lot of maps might be familiar with this, because this is a pretty decently famous setup. This is the bubble wave dash. You take the bubble, you go down right onto the crumble platform, and then you just wave dash out of it. A lot of players know this, some may not, but basically this is what you do. This is what you're doing. Now, all players, like experienced players, will know this is what you need to do. You don't need to like take the bubble, go upwards, land on the crumble block, do something else. I don't know. There's a lot of options of things you can do here, possibly, but everyone knows which is the correct one. And that is an example of a correct setup. This has been established before, people know what this is, so when you see this, you know exactly what to do. So a good map consists of a lot of these, basically, a lot of those setups that people have seen before, they know what it means, they know what they need to do, and then they can do it, and they don't get confused about what they possibly should do. So for example, if I were to show something in game that's not that, just a spoiler warning, this is chapter 4 of my campaign Inwards. Decoration is still very much in the early phases, so don't worry about that. But like, look at this setup right here. You have this dream block right here, there's spikes on the side, and afterwards you kind of need to gain height somehow. So the correct solution for this is this tech. So that's what you learn in this room. And then in the next room, we cement the tech by just kind of doing it 2 more times and being like, hey, yeah, this is what you do when you see this. I'll see if I can actually get it. No? Okay, that's fine. One more try. Yeah, there you go. Something like that. And after I've established that setup, after I'm shown like, hey, yeah, this is what you do if you see this, that's where I start mixing it in with different elements. So for example, here I throw a Kevin in the mix. There's some other stuff going on with like dashing and stuff. But so if you use setups and kind of in a way like this, you can prevent players from being like too confused when they see things. So at least here players know that, oh, wait, I got to do something like that at some point. So that is how you use setups, and then you can, elaborate on those with mixing them with other setups and mixing them with other entities, and that's a way you can make things a lot more clear. So that's that. And next up is restricting possibilities, which is, I think, one of the better ways of making sure things are pretty clear. Let me demonstrate with another example, of course. I'll just go back to chapter 1 here. So there was one room where I really had to employ this, and that's this room. This room is in chapter 1, I think, yeah. And there's these 2 zip movers on the sides, and they kind of juggle you in between them, and you have to climb your way slowly to the top. And a lot of players struggle with this. Originally, there were actually no spikes on these side, by the way. It was just open, and a few refills on the way. And players really struggled with this. They didn't know how to complete this. And I thought it was simple. You just kind of climbed up and threw yourself to the other side every time it happened. But players were doing all sorts of weird stuff, like clinging on to the zip mover and then continuing their like climb upwards, or doing neutrals, or doing other weird stuff. There was a lot of stuff. So what I did is I just put spikes on every single place I don't want the player to go. They can't go to the wrong place if the wrong place just instantly ends their life. That's what I found is a pretty effective strategy. So right now, if you were to just kind of climb up to the spikes every time and throw yourself, well, you get there just fine. You're like, I can't climb further here, I guess I'll throw myself. Same there. And then again there, except I missed the dash, but that's okay. So let's see another example of this, like a bit more, because this was, of course, retrospective. I already fixed that, but let's look at a different example where we haven't fixed it yet, so you can sort of see the mindset of how things work. So let's go to this room. This room is a bit of a puzzle room I've made. there's 2 core blocks, there's wind, and you need to throw yourself to the other side. And it's difficult. You're not sure what you need to do. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of places you can go, but which one's the correct one? I don't know. So how do you fix this? So let me just take a screenshot of this real quick so I can throw it in Paint and show what I mean. Paint. Where's Paint? There's Paint. New file. There we go. So let's first look at the intended solution for this. How do you get to the other side? If I can get it first right, it would be nice. You jump on the top of that, you jump on the side of that one, and also on the side of that one. May have been a bit quick, but I'll just draw it out real quick. So we'll take green for the path you take. Give me a pencil. Yeah, so you go something like this. Something like that. So you can see the sides we touch. I will mark those sides a bit in a bit of green. So this is all the locations Madeline will go to. So an easy way to make sure that players, don't mess around, don't do the wrong things, you can just put spikes on all the other places. Just carve a path through, everything. So in that case, we don't want the player to touch this side. I'll mark that in orange, and this side, and this side. So if you were to put spinners here, I would put it something like this. Just draw some orange here, get something orange here. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what shape I draw right now, but something like this. And if you were to see something like this, and you were actually able to tell that it were spinners, you would be a lot less insecure about which path to take, because you're like, oh, well, I can only hit this side of this core block. I can't go to the top because there's menacing orange blob on it. So using techniques like this, you can absolutely make it more clear how to solve your puzzles if that's what you want. In this case, it's not what I want, because you not knowing is the puzzle here. That is the room. It's short enough for that. So that is how to use the fact that you can restrict the possibilities of how you complete the map. Another thing you could do is, restricting yourself in terms of how many entities you use. Because a lot of the time, people get confused because there's just too much stuff on the screen. There's just too many different things to interact with. So, for example, in this map, I start out by just using first room. Yeah, that's just dream blocks. Just dream blocks. So we introduce the concept of, hey, we got dream blocks. Have fun of those. In the second room, I just throw a Kevin in there, being like, hey, look at that Kevin. There's a Kevin. We're going to use a Kevin. Then, in the third room, I mix and match the two. And it becomes a lot more difficult, and I start combining them in new and interesting ways. For example, here, the Kevin, you ride the Kevin all the way to the end, and you're going to get squished against this dream block if you don't dash. But there's a crystal right before it, so you can time that correctly and dash through. So that's when mechanics start combining. And in that way, you can sort of keep it moderate. You can keep the new things that you're requiring from the player. You can keep those a bit more lenient, so that you don't require too much thinking of the player, because the poor player has enough to deal with. Just make it easy on them. Just introduce one thing at a time. Same thing of this mechanic we spoke about earlier. We just introduce it, we establish it, and only then do we mix it in with the rest. We just take some time with it. So using that, you can reduce the load on the player and make sure they're having a little bit of a better time. And finally, there is also the final method of making sure players aren't overwhelmed with the different options that they can do. And let me just draw a small room for this one. So something of a small room. I don't know. I'm not an artist. It's fine. So let's say you have a path through the room, right? You have something like... So that's a possible path through the room, and you interact with these red elements along the way, right? I'll just draw some stuff that represents something. I don't know what. Is it a bumper? Is it a spring? I don't know. It doesn't really matter in this case. So this is good. So now you have a defined path through your room. But now imagine there's actually more than one path. There's also something like this. And it also has its own like entities that it can use. So now things are a bit more confusing. Like, hey, if you want to fall, if you're on the green path, for example, and you see this red entity appear, but you also see this red entity appear, which is not part of your path, you might think, wait, do I need to interact with that? Do I need to hit that? I don't know. Do I need to do that? And I don't know. Do you? You're not a creator. You don't know. You don't know what you need to do. And if there's a lot of entities that are unused because they're used in a different variety, that ends up getting really confusing, and a lot of players don't know how to deal with that. So yeah, while the concept of multiple different paths might be kind of cool, it's often just better to leave it out. Just make your one path and polish that one more. That is, I think, way more important than just getting multiple things in there, being exciting. Sometimes just less is more. So those are like I think the most major ways to increase readability. Like, yes, of course, there's more. There's like you can use decals in really funny ways. You can do stuff with camera to make it more obvious. But this is, I think, the basics of design, as it were. So that is all for readability. There's a few more general things as to what can make a map fun for players. That they don't specifically have to do with map design like this in general specifically, but let's go over them anyway. So one big thing that makes maps really enjoyable is the sense that you're not just completing a series of challenges in a video game, but rather it feels like you're completing a better whole. You're like going through like a level. You're going through some caves or something. You're doing something bigger than just the challenges. And a way to create that, other than just good graphics, good story or whatever, is progression. If your progression is good, then hey, you got it in the bag. Progression feels amazing. So there's a few different parts to progression. And the first, which is, it's probably one that you've already heard about before, but I'm going to tell about it anyway, because that's what I'm here for. But the first thing is the difficulty curve. And I know you've heard about it before. If you haven't heard about it before, I'll be very surprised. But we're here to talk about it. The difficulty curve should be roughly this. You start low, you end up the high points. You end up like somewhere around here. Now, the exact curve, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. You can have something like this, where it's kind of like in waves. That's perfectly okay. This is what I tend to use, by the way. This is my favorite. Because this is, as I said before, you introduce an element, you start mixing it up, you start elaborating on it, then eventually you get the tough room using it. And then you introduce a new mechanic, keep it easy, start mixing it in until you get a difficult room, mixing it with everything else. Introduce something new, mix it up, get it in a new height. Using tactics like that, you can get a nice progression feeling as well, while also maintaining a decent load on your players, making sure it's reasonable and it's not overwhelming or anything. Or if you're like making a map that's like specifically for very experienced players, you might want to opt to something more like this, where it's like, hey, we introduced the concept, we elaborate a bit on it, and now good luck with this bit. That is also very possible. That is something I think like the D-sides probably do. I'm not sure. I didn't actually play the D-sides. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. But basically, all of these possible curves you can do, they're all fine. Just do whatever. As long as it's not this curve. This curve is bad. Or anything that ends up going downwards. Like, don't do that. Going downwards does not feel good. That gives you a very anticlimactic ending. It doesn't feel good. Player won't feel satisfied. Map will feel all wonky. I don't know. Just don't do that. Just do anything except going down. As long as your general trend is going up, you're doing it okay. So that is the difficulty curve. And there's one more thing I want to mention, specifically because in this map I've made here, well, still making, I've had a lot of fun just making the music fit really well with the progression in the map. I can't show it right now because I'm sharing my entire screen, and that doesn't allow music. I could switch that if that's required. Majama, what do you think on this? Do we have enough time to like show?
Oh
Actually,
yeah, absolutely.
then again, it is music from Hollow Knight. I'm not sure if that gets us in
Oh,
trouble.
true. Yeah, maybe not.
Okay, and I'll just show it off in theory. I'll just talk about it. So this map is, in the story, I haven't. I'm not really going to talk about the details because that's not important. But what's happening here is that Madeline is angry at Badlin, and Madeline is going to look for Badlin and slap Badlin. That is the general gist of this map. Very simple. So at the beginning, you might be able to see it, but there's no Badlin. So at the beginning of this map, there's a little bit of brooding music. It's a nice bit dramatic. It's a bit driving. It's kind of it's still decently calm. So as you go through these levels, the music is still decently calm, but when you get to one of those points that I mentioned earlier, like one of those high points, the music kicks up. The music goes into the next layer where the choir kicks in, and it's a bit more tense. You feel the pressure a bit. Afterwards, of course, we go back to the baby tutorial stuff. Music kicks down, the choir goes away. But then, when this mechanic gets mixed in with the rest, choir kicks back in. And after all this section introducing new mechanics, there's actually a modded mechanic here. I'll just wait for the map to be released. It's fine. But once you get to this part, Badlin is here. Badlin is just shooting at you. So this is where the music kicks it up and the percussion starts getting involved. And the percussion stays for the rest of these rooms while Badlin is sniping at you from a distance. And then comes the moment where instead of going horizontal, you start going vertical straight towards Badlin. And here, not only the percussion, but also the extra pizzicato, I hope I pronounced that right, but the extra string section kicks in, and it's, that music is tense. That gets you going. So kind of like that, you get that swelling of the intensity in the music to accompany the swelling of intensity in the map that follows that difficulty curve we talked about earlier. So the music kind of follows the difficulty curve, and if you nail that, that is good. That feels so good. Like that gets the player into the mood that tells them basically how to feel about the different sections. It's really good. You can do a lot of stuff with just really good music and really good visuals. So if you have the time to put in custom audio, I highly recommend you do so. And you just polish the dynamics as much as you can, because boy, it adds so much. It adds so much to the experience. I know my collab map, I won't show that off because that's secret, but the collab map has dynamic music put in by Beefy Uncle, and that is such good stuff. And I think that absolutely sells the map. So if you can get your hands on some good music, just do it. Just absolutely do it. It adds so much. And I think that's also it for the music. And I have run out of material to cover. Well, basic material, that is. I can talk more, but that's going into really specific and niche details that aren't really required. My teachers at school did tell me that if I ever were to end a presentation, I would end it on like an uitsmijter, as they call it here, like a nice quote and something nice to remember. I didn't prepare that actually, so yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't think we need a quote at the end. That was absolutely incredible. Guys, I'm gonna make all this stuff available to rewatch, and this is one that I think you would definitely want to rewatch if you're into map making, because really smart stuff from Holly. That was incredible. Thank you so much.
No worries.
What an amazing presentation. And just one thing that I was just thinking about as you were talking. Good game design is almost like invisible. You don't necessarily, as a player, see all the things like Holly was mentioning. Putting spikes up to kind of restrict your movement. Obviously, the more you learn about design, you'll pick up on those elements. But really good design and fun gameplay, it's almost invisible. You're just experiencing it, and again, with the design of the level and the music, and it really just it immerses you in the game, and you just really you feel it more. You're not distracted by something that's happening. You're in the moment. You're feeling it. You're feeling the sense of accomplishment, and yeah, wow, that's really good stuff. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You nailed it on that one. Good game design. It's about distracting the player less from playing a game and more like being inside the game and experiencing what they want to experience.
Yeah, beautiful. Really well said. Okay, well, thank you again, Holly. Let's prepare for our next segment here. Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, wow. Also, just really quickly, a reminder, if you guys are on Twitter, the creator of Celeste, Matt Thorson, has been tweeting specifically about Holly's theory, the beautiful, elegant, simple theory of fun, trademark Holly. So check that out. Really good job. And we'll get started with the next segment shortly.